At this time that this video is being made, I'm still on an IVF journey. And it has evolved and changed in unexpected ways, but that's all part of the story. So let me get my notes, because otherwise this will be a very meandering conversation that I will have not the easiest time editing. Stephen and friends are out on a boat today. It is a beautiful, beautiful day to be out on a boat. So nice and warm. It's 94 degrees today here in Miami, Florida. Sunny, beautiful skies, nicely humid, not like aggressively humid, but just nicely humid. In a way that just kind of wraps you in a nice warm blanket. And I bet the water out there feels fantastic to get into. All right, I have my notes now. Thank you for clicking on this video. I wanted to make this video because I really enjoy listening to the stories of other women as they have gone through their IVF journey. And my journey is not necessarily super unique. It's actually pretty typical. But it's my journey, and I've enjoyed listening to other women share their stories, and I wanted to offer my own as a source of comfort and strength to other women who may be looking for that. My name is Brittany John, and I live here in Miami, Florida with my partner Stephen. And for the last couple years, we have been kind of on the journey to IVF. And in particular, the year that I turned 43 actually was the year that we started our IVF stimulation cycles. It can be a bit of a journey to get to IVF, depending on the state of your health. So that's why, even though I started at the age of 41, it wasn't until the age of 43 until I finally was able to start the IVF process. It can take some time, and there's some things that came up in the interim for me medically where I was not able to start IVF until I was 43. And I will make another video about that. But this video is about the 3 stimulation cycles that I did with IVF at the age of 43. Trying to get pregnant over 40 is definitely not a walk in the park, and this is not something that should surprise any of us. We all know this. I was obviously not getting pregnant, so I went to the doctor to do the tests. Mind you, I'd done this before. I'd done these tests before. I knew I was getting for tests and like all these kinds of things that they're going to have to do once you show up and proclaim yourself, "Hi, I have infertility." Then you've just signed yourself up for a battery of tests and a long process of observation and stimulation and all sorts of other things, so that they can figure out what the heck is going on with you. I did that in my 30s, and so I kind of knew what I was getting myself into when I went back in my 40s to a fertility clinic. They did a bunch of tests and ultrasound scans, this, that. I had an MRI, I had a hysteroscopy, I had all the things. And then the consultation comes from the doctor, says that, you know what, your ovarian reserve is diminished, you have nothing left, your best chances of success are going to be with donor eggs. I didn't like that answer. I didn't like that answer because I am not in menopause. I'm still ovulating regularly, and I'm still getting regular periods. I don't even have any signs of menopause. I don't get hot flashes. There's in all other ways of my life, I am as healthy as a 25-year-old. I work out regularly, I eat healthy, I only drink on the weekends. Sure, I'm 40 years old, but my biological markers otherwise are not that of a typical 40-year-old. So I didn't like that answer. I didn't like that answer from the doctor, that even though I still have eggs left, we should just go for donor eggs, because I felt like I was being kind of funneled down that route because it was much more likely to succeed. I understood that it would be a very hard and difficult path to use my own eggs because the chances of success are much lower. And I also understood that the chances of success with donor eggs is much, much, much higher, like astronomically higher. And I also understood that part of the doctor's incentive has to be, because every single fertility clinic tells you the statistics of their success rates on their website, his motivation has to partially be motivated by how would those numbers look. And if I am going to insist on using my own eggs, that increases his chance of not it decreases his success rate, basically. And I'm not successful. It decreases his success rate. So he's externally motivated to tell me something that I don't want to hear. And frankly, I'm just not ready to hear that yet. We haven't even tried. I still have eggs. I'm still ovulating. I'm still getting a regular period. Why aren't we trying to see what we can do? So anyway, I didn't like that answer. I did not continue to see that doctor. Went on a year-long journey to try and get rid of the fibroids that were in my uterus. And then when I was ready to reconsider IVF again, healthy enough to reconsider IVF again, I went to a different doctor, and she very graciously said very similar things to what the first doctor said, but she was willing to try. She was willing to try and let me use my own eggs. And she proposed that what we should do is what she called egg farming. Basically, the first part of the IVF cycle, the follicle stimulating cycle, and then the egg retrieval part. So we would do rapid fire cycles of follicle stimulation and egg retrieval. We just do that as many times as we could. My insurance would pay for 3 cycles, so in my mind it was 3 cycles of this. Just grow the eggs, retrieve them, fertilize them, freeze them. Grow the eggs, retrieve them, fertilize them, freeze them. Grow the eggs, retrieve them, fertilize them, freeze them. Egg farming. It's a great name. It's the perfect name. Egg farming. That's what she proposed that we do. And I was like, yeah, that sounds great. Let's do it. You know what? I'm almost out of eggs. I've heard that from several doctors now. Let's pump all the hormones in. Let's get all the eggs we can. Let's see what we got. You know? My cards are almost played. Let's see what's left in the hand. Let's take them all out and let's look at it. And I like that. I was very happy with it. And of course, she cautioned me about my age and chances of success. Again and again, it was like, you know, we only need one. We only need one. And yes, Stephen wants to have more kids than just one. And that's fine. I'm fine with that. But I wanted one. I wanted one that was me and him, biologically. The thing is, I just wasn't ready to give up on my own biology. I wasn't. And she knew that. And she agreed to go through that journey with me. I turned 43 the same month that I started my first IVF egg farming cycle. And I vlogged that first cycle. It's a lot of focus on other things besides kind of my own story. There's not a lot of information. It's just mostly my frustration with trying to get the IVF medications to me, which, you know, may or may not be the story you want to hear, but that's what I was vlogging about. Anyway, what I recorded of the first cycle is linked below. At the time, I didn't think that I was being affected very much by the medications, but looking back and reflecting, I mean, you can see it in the video. You can see my emotional roller coaster. I was definitely going on an emotional roller coaster, which is not typical for me. Looking back, I can definitely see that this is not normal for me. So, but instead of verbalizing that at the time, I kind of externalized it by overly focusing on the medications, the process of getting the medications to me, which was much more complicated than I expected it to be. And it didn't really leave me any room to think about all the other things, which I briefly mentioned in my rant. You know, this hopefulness, the hopefulness that you're constantly trying to chase, and that sense of needing to be perfect and not allowing yourself any grace for mistakes that are, whether your fault or someone else's. Like, oh man, the pressure of that. This is the most important thing I've ever done in my life, and it didn't go smoothly. It didn't go smoothly, and that was really, really hard to deal with. That's not what I'm talking about in the video. It's not what I vlogged about. What I vlogged about was how hard it was to get the medications to me. So anyway, if you're curious about watching that, you can check out the link below, and we will continue this in a moment. We're at least at a place where I can have background music, and the sun is still very high in the sky. Last night there was a solar storm here. Not here, all over. Where was I in my story? As was tested by doctors upon doctors, my ovarian reserve was low. And the reason why they know that is because there are certain hormone levels that they test in your blood work that tell them how hard your body is trying to get your ovaries to produce an egg every month. And basically, the levels of the hormones in my body were suggesting to the doctors that my body was trying really, really hard to get me to ovulate, which means that my egg reserve is low. So as you age, as your egg reserve drops, your body has to produce more and more hormones. I think it's FSH, etc., in order to ramp up the intensity of the communication to the ovaries. We need an egg. So that's what they're doing. My body's doing that. My body is basically, the first doctor actually said, my body's basically redlining when it comes to the pedal to the metal when it comes to these hormones. We are screaming at your ovaries, make me an egg, because there's not a lot left. So when I started IVF to do the egg farming, my doctor did the exact same thing. She's like, we are going to put you on the highest dose of all the medications. We are going to scream, we're going to shout, we're going to jump up and down, and we're just going to your ovaries will not have a moment's rest until they produce us enough eggs. They put me on a high dose of Menopur, a high dose of Gonal. I had to do injections every night. Yes, I started on those medications and did them for about 2 weeks. It actually was probably the longest that I was on any injectable medications, because of the fact that I had to start a day late because of the medication complications, and then I missed a day. But it actually ended up turning out okay because we got 2 mature eggs in the egg retrieval, and one of them fertilized and made it to the 5-day blastocyst stage in order to be genetically tested. So round 1 was a success at the outset. We only needed 1. We had 1 fertilized, healthy blastocyst that had made it to the egg freezing stage. And the only thing that was left was to get it genetically tested to make sure that it was normal. After the first cycle, I took a break from egg farming. Steven and I had a planned trip to Spain that we were going on, and it coincided with the dates of my next cycle. So we decided to take a break, which was good. It's good for my mental health. It was good for us. We were feeling really, really good about the 1 egg that we had that was on ice, basically waiting for us when we got back. Got back from Spain. The holidays were fast approaching us at that time, and then on to the next. Unfortunately, before I went into the next cycle, I did get the news that the genetic test had come back from the first fertilized egg that it was abnormal and would not survive outside the womb. Been on a little bit of a high, over the first cycle and the results of it. I only wanted 1, and I felt so thankful that, I wasn't asking for a lot. I wasn't asking for like 6. I mean, I know most younger women are getting like 20 eggs when they freeze their eggs. When they go to fertilize them, out of a batch of 20, they're getting like 6, or something, some crazy amount of numbers like that. Like I just needed 1. I just wanted 1. I don't care that I only got 2. I don't care that there were only 4 follicles growing the whole time. I just wanted 1. Just needed 1. And I was on such a high when I thought that at least I was getting 1. At least I was getting 1. And maybe I would get more than that. Like what a fantastic outcome. What a huge blessing from these IVF cycles if that was the case. But before I went into round 2, I found out that it was not genetically normal, and it would not survive outside of. It would not survive this baby. It was a failure. So the first round was a failure. So then yeah, on to the next. Aggressive to think that I could actually share the whole story in one sit-down video. Remains to be seen if this is actually possible. But I will try.